Hey, I'm Mark Stevens, author of Government Indicted. The website is markstevens.net. And I haven't done this in a while. This is another edition of the Same Old Lie World Tour. And this is the first time that we've got one for New Zealand. And we're actually out of Auckland. And we're talking, this is interesting. I know it was a long time ago that it's the same program. And that people... It started out, used to be, like with Adventures in Legal Land, it was just a matter of where people in Florida or California were all getting the same responses from these people. And then after Adventures in Legal Land, I started taking on more of an intercontinental, task, where I started working with a lot of people that were outside of the United States. And whether it was Canada, Australia, England, it didn't matter. I got the same stupid responses to my questions. And so this is interesting because I would never really get the opportunity to do a call like this with the equivalent in the United States as I had here in Auckland. So this is a guy who was an adjudicator for the traffic bureau. And so he really is equivalent of he's like a traffic court judge. He's at the lowest rung. And, it's a bit longer of a call, but it's got some good stuff in there. So you'll hear that even though it's New Zealand, he gives me the same he gives me the same non-responsive answers to simple questions. So the question is, and again, I don't know the first thing about New Zealand law. I can't quote you anything, nothing. But we have had success there because it's the same program. And you'll hear him agree. He'll go over and over again. If you are in New Zealand physically, the laws apply to you. And it's that same argument that we're attacking. And so when I ask him for the facts, he uses all the buzzwords that you'll hear from the antisocial parasites, the criminals here in the U.S. or Canada. So he will, in response to the question, he'll say he can't give me legal advice. Then he talks about debating me. He says he's not going to argue semantics, which is kind of, silly. And asking for facts is now semantics. Yes. Okay. So he actually goes and confirms what I had written in Adventures in Legal Land all those years ago, when I said that bureaucrats and politicians don't think that they have to prove that the laws that they ram down your throat every day apply to you. He will tell you in plain English, almost the Queen's English, that they're not required to prove that their laws apply. I ask him, well, okay, you may not be required to do that because you're a criminal organization, but can you prove that they apply? And it's clear that he doesn't. This is some irony here. He talks to me about plain logic, and he says that my question is nonsense, and that my argument is spurious. So you think you're talking to one of these U.S. attorneys here. He used all the buzzwords except for frivolous and legalistic gibberish. That just seems to be an American thing. But yes, my argument was spurious. My argument was that, hey, if you're saying the Constitution and Code apply, you should have to prove that. I know. How spurious is that to say you have to prove your argument? But hey, I'm just a run-of-the-mill anarchist, so, hey, what do I know about logic and stuff like this and law and evidence? So enjoy this. Remember, it's just more evidence that no matter where you are, they're using the same argument, and there's still, whether it's Auckland, New Zealand, or London, England, or Toronto, Canada, not a single fact to support the argument. But if you think you've got what the adjudicator, this traffic court judge, if you think you've got the evidence that he couldn't, not that I'm saying you have to prove it under their system. I'm not saying, no, you may not have to. It's criminal. But if you think you can, then I'd love the opportunity to have you on the No Stay Project live. I'll record it if that's the way you want to do it. Or if you can get us booked on another live broadcast, I'm more than happy to do that. Just contact me at markstevens@mail.com or at markstevens.net, or on Skype, it is Frank Rizzo 3. Again, I'd love to see the evidence. Do what all these politicians are absolutely unable to do. Provide a single fact supporting the argument. If you're physically in New Zealand, then the constitution or laws of the state of New Zealand or the country of New Zealand actually apply to you. Again, my name is Marc Stevens. It is markstevens.net, and we welcome your dissent, and especially any evidence you have to support that argument.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to
Here.
see is true. The names have been changed
Redacted.
to protect the innocent.
And guilty.
Do you want an interesting and rewarding job? A job in which no 2 days are the same? Welcome to the New Zealand Police. New Zealand Police offers a world...
Adjudications, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Marc Stevens. I was talking regarding a situation with a client who has an infringement notice, and I can't seem to get him back on the line. I guess it's, because I'm calling from Phoenix, that may be it. So maybe I could just discuss the matter with you in general terms. It is an issue of a question of jurisdiction, and confirm with me, and I'm sure you would agree, that if someone is physically in New Zealand, then the laws of the government of New Zealand would apply to them.
Correct.
Right. My question for you is, and what was your name, sir?
Yep.
Do you have any actual facts to support the argument that just because someone is physically in New Zealand, that the laws of New Zealand would apply to them?
The minute you enter New Zealand airspace, you become subject to New Zealand law in the same way that I enter America, I become subject to USA legislation. Or England or any other country you like to name. We are sole jurisdictional countries that the laws of a country pertain to a person contained within its boundaries. So you come into, or your friend, whoever you're acting for, comes into the country, they are subject to our laws and penalties.
Well, all you did was repeat the argument. I understand that.
Yeah.
Do you have any actual...
I can't quote you this, but I'm not a lawyer. If you want that sort of detailed legislative advice, you'll need to talk to a lawyer, and any international lawyer would be able to answer those questions for you as to international jurisprudence. That's not something that I, as an adjudicator on traffic tickets, am required to know. Suffice to say that I think the argument, to be honest, is a bit silly. I can't see any merit in it whatsoever, and it's something, if you wanted to argue it in the New Zealand Supreme Court,